Hi everyone, I'm Chyill, and today's video is the second part of my Q&A video where I actually get to answer all of you guys' questions, so I'm really excited for that, and let's just get straight into it. I've got lots of questions, I think 16 questions in total. I didn't double check the number, but I know it's around there, and I think about 3 of them are personal questions and the rest are related to games or Battlerite, so I will just answer the personal ones first, and then I'll get into the Battlerite or games related ones. So yeah, first question for today comes from Swegy, and he asks, what do you do for a living? Well, I wanted to answer that I do YouTube and Twitch for a living, since I pretty much just, edit videos, record videos, those sort of stuff every day, play games. But I don't make enough from these avenues to sort of support my living. So I guess I'm not really doing this for a living, to be precise, basically. So at some point, I'll probably have to think about whether is it feasible for me to make a living out of this. And yeah, it's a tough question, honestly. But yeah, so Swegy, that's the answer to your question. And now the next question comes from BachFanboy, and he asks, why the classical music? So I think from your name I can immediately tell that you are a classical music fan, because I know Bach is a musician long time ago. And even though I'm not a big enough fan of classical music to know like a lot of classical music pieces and stuff like that, I do know some of them, like those that you can hear in my videos and all that. And so yeah, like they just make pretty good background music, and you know, I personally quite enjoy them. Like even though I don't know a lot of them, I really enjoy those that I do know. So that's why I just included them in, and it's really good for background music because it's relaxing, you know, it's sort of catchy a little bit, and yeah, and it's not too loud and distracting is what I feel. Of course, some people have complained that like the background music in my video are like a little loud, but I guess I can tone them down. And what I meant to say by classical music not being too loud is like it's not very distracting, like you know, there's not a lot of things going on basically. I'm not too sure how to describe it, but that's sort of what I have in mind basically. So yeah, that's why I use classical music in my video. Although I don't think I have any Bach music in my video, maybe you can suggest some to me and I can add them into my video. And yeah, moving on to the next question. It is from Edward, and he asks which part of Malaysia you're from. So this is an easy one. I'm from Petaling Jaya, and this is a city that is just right next to Kuala Lumpur, which is the capital of Malaysia. And I was born in Petaling Jaya, so I was born and raised here. And yeah, so this is the part of Malaysia that I'm from, and this is also where I'm making my videos from and all that. So hopefully that answers your question. It's pretty straightforward, so I'm pretty sure it did. And so yeah, those were all of the personal questions that I got. So now let's move on to the questions which are related to games or Battlerite. Mostly Battlerite though. So yeah, the first question from Quinell, and he asked, do you think Battlerite will follow most hero release trends by just making the new hero OPAF, so everyone will buy it in some form and then just nerf it later? So to answer your question, while I can't say for sure, I feel like SLS probably wouldn't do such a thing, since making a new hero too overpowered in this game would probably be a bad idea. Every match in Battlerite is either played 2-on-2 or 3-on-3, and so the contribution of a single champion to the outcome of the match basically is so big that like if you make just one champion really overpowered, I think it will feel like it's too unbalanced, and people will probably be very unhappy about it. It is not like in a game of League of Legends or Heroes of the Storm where they adopt a similar system where you can buy a champion, because like in those games they are always played 5-on-5, and so the contribution of a single champion is a lot less than in Battlerite where games are played 2-on-2 and 3-on-3. So like since I've started playing, they've released Rukan, Jumong, Ismo, Raygon, Pestilus, Blossom and Thorn, and none of them have been super over the top like once they were released. I guess you could argue that Jumong at one point before his rework, he was like really strong, but he wasn't like completely unmanageable, and you know, to the point where he cannot be defeated if you don't have a Jumong in your own team or something like that. So yeah, I really doubt that SLS will go that route, because it's not right, and I'm sure they know that, like, you know, the negative reviews that they'll get from doing that is probably not worth it in the end, is what I think. So yeah, my answer to your question is I think no, and I think you can rest easy from that, and yeah, should be fine, I think. Moving on, the next question is from Atomic Man, and he asks, how did you get into Battlerite? So I got to know about Battlerite when Total Biscuit, the cynical Brit, tweeted about the game more than a year ago, and so I thought, hey, this game looks pretty cool, and so I decided to check it out. And yeah, I played it like for some time, and I thought, hey, it's really fun, and it's really interesting, and so, you know, why not start making videos on it, and I could help people learn champions faster and all that sort of stuff, and that's how I got into making the guides and those kind of things. So yeah. Next up, Yoni asks, how long have you been playing Battlerite? What about Battlerite makes it better than other games for you, and what makes you stick to it? Congrats for the 1000 subs. Another similar question from JigglyBunz0303 was, what got you into Battlerite? Bracket, what drew you on the most? So these two questions are fairly similar, so I'll answer both of them at once. And I started playing Battlerite shortly after it launched in early access. That was when I saw the tweet from Total Biscuit, and I was like, hey, this game's pretty fun, so I bought it and I checked it out. And so yeah, until now I have played about 450 hours, and what really drew me in and why I enjoyed playing it was because, you know, I played a lot of mobile games before this, except Smite. So I played Dota, Dota 2, League of Legends, Heroes of New Earth, Heroes of Storm and all that, and I really enjoyed all of those games. And the part that I enjoyed the most in all of those games were the team fights, like the whole chaotic nature of all those team fights, you know, lots of stuff happening here and there, and every second matters in those team fights, right? When I play like MOBAs and stuff, I feel very impatient, and like I don't really want to sit there and farm the whole game and stuff, so I enjoy just running around, ganking people and all that stuff. So like the high action gameplay is what I'm really after, and so I got into Battlerite, and hey, this, you know, it's sort of like a MOBA but not really, and it offers that fast action-packed gameplay, and so I really enjoyed that. The whole Battlerite system was pretty cool to me as well, like, you know, being able to customize your champion round to round, and sort of make a build that is suited to you, and you fight against your opponents that way. So I really enjoyed that whole thing, and that's what really got me into the game. And then of course I played for a few months, and then I got to know quite a lot of people, and they've become my good friends online. You know, I don't know them in real life, but I know them online through Battlerite, and so they made the game a lot more enjoyable to me as well. So yeah, those are the reasons that really got me like sticking to Battlerite as a game, and also what I make content for on YouTube. So yeah, shout out to all of my friends on Battlerite that, you know, gave me a really good time playing Battlerite. Moving on, the next question is from Nidone, or Nid1, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, but he asks, what do you think of a new Battlerite system, choosing Battlerites every round versus loadouts? He says, as a new player, I got really confused at what 5 routes out of about 20 I should be getting, so every time I'm trying out a new champion, I spend a good 15 to 20 minutes to read those and think what loadouts I should prepare before going in. Feels like the old system would be better. Why did they decide to get rid of it? So to me, both systems are fine, but I think the loadout systems is probably the better way to go for a few reasons. Like, I completely understand and agree that the old system is way more manageable, especially for a newer player, but the new loadout system, I think, is a lot easier to balance. So in the old system, Battlerites that you get in rounds 4 and 5 are barely played, right? If you get 3-0 or the enemy team 3-0s you barely get to choose the round 4 and round 5 Battlerites. So it's really hard to sort of tweak the power of each Battlerite if you have to consider when in the round, or when in the match rather, is the champion going to use a certain Battlerite. Like, you know, a good example for this is Ismo's Battlerite in the 3rd round, which I think it's called Exhaust, and this gives a snare effect to his mouse 1 attacks after he lands like consecutive hits with his mouse 1 attacks. And so it's a really strong Battlerite, you know, and you can almost consider it like as Ismo's best Battlerite. And he would get it in round 3 in the old system, and so typically you get Ismo's who maybe lost the first 2 rounds, and then after the 3rd round he just like wins every round after that to come back because he got this Battlerite. So it became a bit hard to sort of balance the Battlerite, because like, sure, you know, Ismo only gets it in round 3, so you know it should at least be somewhat decent. Otherwise, like, you know, what's the point? There's no point to pick it, right? But then again, because it's so strong, like once he gets it, you know, it's hard to fight against it and all that sort of stuff. And you gotta consider like different champions will have to deal with Ismo differently, since different champions also have to think about like what Battlerite they're gonna get in round 3 and so on. So it becomes like really messy and all that, and so that's why I think the new system is way easier to balance, and yeah, that's I think the biggest reason for this change to this loadout system. And another reason I think why the loadout system might be a better system is because it allows you to pick any Battlerites that you actually want, and instead of sacrificing a certain Battlerite every round, or rather sacrifice 2 Battlerites every round, in fact, just to pick that one that you always use, for example. So this allows I guess a little bit more build diversity. Like you can have this build that you can try out maybe because it's really fun, or you can have this build which you just go all in on a certain playstyle, and so I think that's a good thing. But the only downside of the new system, as far as I can tell, is that they don't have the ability for you to change your Battlerites each round. Like I used to like the fact that you can choose a certain Battlerites each round, and that lets you like adapt your playstyle to your opponent's playstyle, because you wouldn't really know how your opponents play until you actually play against them, right? But in this new system, you can't actually change your Battlerites in the middle of a match. So I like that old system where you can actually choose your Battlerites in the middle of each round. And so I think if a good compromise would be to make it so that in the new system, like you choose your loadout from the start, so you've got all 5 Battlerites, right? You hit ready and you go in and you play, and then after the first round, maybe you can change only one Battlerites to some other Battlerites, or you can just leave it unchanged, and that would perhaps make it way more interesting, and it would certainly be even more tough for newer players to figure out what's going on. Like, why did the enemy, they were doing something like this just now and suddenly they can do something else? But if they can make the UI reflect the change a lot more prominently, I think it should be a pretty good way to add a lot of depth to this new Battlerites system, is what I think. So yeah, overall I like the change, but also there are some issues with it that I don't really like that much. But I would say in general, I like it more than the old system. So yeah, hope that answers your question. That was a bit long. I mean, the answer was a bit long, but yeah, I can't really just skip on any part of it, so I hope you understand. Next question is from Julisando, or Julisando, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but he asks, what other games do you play? So currently, other than Battlerite, I mostly play Rainbow Six Siege, Overwatch and Destiny 2. I occasionally go back to play WoW when new expansions hit, and Hearthstone every month for the new card back, and some other games that I enjoy, but I don't really have the time to play a lot more of would be like Heroes of the Storm, Dota, Path of Exile, Factorio, Stardew Valley, just to name a few. I have a whole list of Steam games, lots of other like smaller games, and games that are more fun like Civilization. I also play Battlefield, those kind of thing. But I mean, yeah, I haven't touched a lot of those games in weeks or months because I don't really have the time to play so many games. And yeah, maybe one day I might cover more of these games in the channel, but for now it will just be mostly Battlerite. Next up, Antics asked, tips for solo queuing with Jumong, as well as your favorite Battlerites to use for him. So for solo queuing with Jumong, I think I definitely try to focus a bit more on surviving, more than trying to do damage as Jumong, because you can't really rely on your teammates as much as you would your friends when you're playing with them. And so I think focusing a little bit more on survival when playing as Jumong would be the best way to go when you're solo queuing. So yeah, that's my tip for solo queuing with Jumong. And about my favorite Battlerites, my favorite build with Jumong includes the perfect shot and power shot, so that gives the mouse 2 stun and the mouse 2 knockback plus increased damage. And then I also like to take Arrow Storm, that is the increased radius and damage of Q. Death Mark, which increases your damage when you consume Seeker's Mark, and Trapper, which is the extra E trap. So this build is quite greedy since there's not a lot of survival Battlerites within it, but if you feel that, you know, you look at your enemy team and you feel quite safe and you don't feel like you'll be rushed, then I think the build is pretty good since it gives you a lot of burst potential with your mouse tool. You have a bit of control with your Q and your E, like increased radius and the increased trap, and you get a bit increased damage from your Death Mark and of course your Arrow Storm and the sort of stuff. So yeah, I think it's quite sort of an all-round build. Of course, it doesn't focus a lot of survival, but these are my favorite Battlerites when I feel safe enough to use. If you don't feel that safe, then I'll probably take out Trapper and Death Mark and put in Viper and Panther. So Viper and Panther are those rights which one of it reduces your cooldown of your R and increases its duration as well, so it gives you a lot more survivability, and the other gives you a little fading haste buff when you use your spacebar ability. So I usually use both of them together if I feel really unsafe, and so like I said, I'll take out Trapper and Death Mark to put those two in. And if you're solo queuing, I think doing that is probably the best. And if you feel super unsafe, like, you know, you really want all survival Battlerites as much as you can, then I would say take out Death's Mark and put in agility so that it can move a bit faster. So yeah, those are my Battlerites that I use for Jumong and what I would swap out if I feel like I need more survival. So I hope that answers your question, and I hope it helps you out as well. So yeah, next question is from Hollis, and he asks, is Thorn overpowered, or do bronze to silver players just not know how to deal with him? So I think that Thorn isn't too overpowered, especially not after the nerf in the patch 1.0.3. But even before the nerf, I felt that he was in an okay spot. Maybe he was just a little bit over average, but he's definitely not like super overpowered or anything. And I think it is just a matter of fact that bronze or silver players just don't really know how to deal with him that well. His kit has a lot of things that is sort of a bit hard to deal with, right? Like you have his spacebar, which lets him burrow and then suddenly just pop out of nowhere and stun you, sorry. And then he has his Q, which lets you pull people, and he doesn't even trigger counters. You know, he has his E, which is pretty much a single target petrify, you know. And yeah, he's got so many tools to sort of control the battlefield, and these kind of things usually like are quite hard for newer players to deal with. But amongst like more experienced players, they learn really quickly on like how to counter him, right? You know, you just sort of have to wait out for his spacebar to be used and then just focus all your attacks on him, and he will die quite quickly, you know, assuming you don't like attack into his R and all that, of course. So he can at times be quite annoying, but I think he was in an okay spot, and now he's definitely in a more average spot after the nerfs. So yeah, that's what I think about Thorn. I think it's just a matter of learning how to deal with him, and new champions always feel overpowered because people don't know how to deal with him yet. So give it some time, give it 2 to 3 weeks, you know, play a bit more with him and against him, of course, and then I think most champions will feel more balanced after a while. So yeah, hope that answers the question. And the next question comes from DragonScorn. He says, Chyill, what are your favorite and least favorite champions to play in Battlerite? So my favorite champion to play would be Paloma, and I think that she is my favorite champion because I like that she's super versatile and she can pretty much do everything, and she's sort of like a jack of all trades basically. So to give you guys a summary of what she can do, her other side or mouse ability gives a reset, and I think it's super strong. She has AoE damage in the form of a Soulbind. That's the debuff that she puts on people with her mouse one and her wolves. And then she also has her wolves itself and her EXQ, you know, all of these deal AoE damage. She has a lot of AoE healing in the form of a Soul Link, and that's the buff that she puts on her teammates when she heals people. Her other side, that's a mouse tool, and of course her ultimate ability. She has burst single target heals and damage from her R, that's a pixie ability, and I guess her EX space is a form of burst damage and healing as well. And she also has a few CC options with a Q, and I guess a little bit of a spacebar because it has a bit of a knockback. So that's quite useful for, like, you know, knocking back melee enemies and all that. And she has also 2 movement abilities, which is really handy when you're trying to survive. So that is her spacebar and her mouse 2 ability, also very useful. So, like, you know, she has this whole list of things which she can do. And yeah, like, it doesn't matter who you get paired up with, it doesn't matter who you are facing up against, her base kit allows her to sort of deal with those kind of situations. So yeah, that's why I like Paloma, and I really enjoy playing Paloma. And my least favorite champion would probably be Croak. And the reason for this is just because I really can't play Croak that well, and it really feels awkward for me to play it. Like, every time I try to play Croak, it just feels like I don't know what am I doing, you know. Of course, I think part of it is due to the lack of experience. Like, I barely play Croak at all. The most I played Croak was that 2 to 3 weeks where I was practicing with him to make my guide for him. And after that, like, you know, he's been changed a little bit and all that sort of stuff, and I haven't practiced with him much. And so yeah, it feels really awkward for me to play him. Every time I try to play him again, I don't do very well with Croak, and so I think he's my least favorite champion to play. The second least favorite is probably Varesh or something, for the same reasons as Croak. Like, I just don't have a lot of practice, and it just feels awkward for me. So yeah, Croak mains and Varesh mains, please don't hate me. And yeah. Next up, Hugo asks, "Hey Chyill, first of all, really great YouTube channel you have. My question to you is, which champion was the first champion you enjoyed playing and why?" So first of all, thank you. And the first champion I really enjoyed playing was Paloma. As you can guess from the previous question, I was suggested to do a guide on Paloma fairly early on. So I think I did like a Jade guide, Ashka guide, and I think a Pearl guide before doing a Paloma guide. So when I played Paloma at that point, I mostly just played Jade, Ashka, and Pearl. And my god, like, when I played Paloma, it just felt really, really nice. Like, she could do so many things. And, like, you know, I explained earlier why she was really fun to me. Like, she can do a bit of everything and she can handle almost any situation. So yeah, that's the first champion that I played that I really, really enjoyed, you know. I did quite enjoy Jade, but I didn't do so well with her, and so naturally I was like, But I guess maybe at the time I was just really new to the game, and so I didn't feel like I was doing as well with Jade. But I did very well with Paloma, and so yeah, Paloma is the champion that I first enjoyed, and that is why I enjoy Paloma, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier in the previous question. So next up, CantoD asks, "Can you do a tier list video? Maybe explain which champs are good for solo ranked, which are good in coordinated comps, which are OP or UP, etc." So it is quite unlikely that I'll do a tier list sort of video, since I don't usually believe in a tier list kind of thing. A lot of people get to Grand Champion playing just one champion that they really like and just mastering that champion. So yeah, like all the champions, even like those champions who currently feel very, very weak, like Lucy and all the sort, they are played by people only, like, you know, let's say some guy could just be playing Lucy a lot and they managed to climb out to Grand Champion as well. So I don't see why there's really a need for a tier list. I guess it could be useful for helping free-to-play players decide what champion they might want to buy, since, hey, this champion is supposed to be really strong right now, so maybe let's buy this, and this can help me rank up. But the problem with that is that if you make a tier list that way, you gotta keep updating it, like, you know, with what champion is the meta right now, like it's really popular and all that sort of stuff, and it's ever changing, you know, the meta is ever changing. This champion might be really good now, and because lots of people play this champion, then another champion who soft counters that champion will be played more, and then so they will be the new meta, and you know, it's sort of a cycle that goes on, and I don't feel like there's a need to sort of keep updating this tier list. But what doesn't change is the difficulty to play each champion, and so that's why I created the chart on you know, how difficult it is to learn a certain champion, so that newer players can decide who they want to buy based on that chart. Like, newer players probably don't want to learn very difficult champions, right? Or maybe they like a challenge and they want to learn a difficult champion, so that chart will help them. but I don't really want to make a tier list on how strong a champion is currently, since that will be ever changing, especially since SLS is constantly buffing and nerfing different champions as time goes on, and also like their performance in the game, of course, their win rate and those kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't think I'll ever do a tier list video, but at most I may just have a chart like I do with the difficulty thing, and yeah, that's about it really. Moving on, the next question is from Seil, and he asked, so is there any hope for big tournaments with large money pools, sponsors, and a large pro scene? So for Battlerite, I think there's definitely hope for big tournaments with large money pools, and I think that is definitely what SLS is aiming for. As far as I can tell, like they mentioned a couple of times during the early access that, you know, they are trying to make this new esports game. You know, Battlerite is I mean, it was pretty much designed for esports. They had their Odium, you know, where you can watch replays. They had their spectator system, I think pretty much since the start as well. And so yeah, like they pretty much designed the game to be an esports game. So I think there's definitely potential for large money pools and sponsors and a large pro scene, as you're mentioning. But it really depends on SLS and how they plan to do it, basically. Like, what are decisions they're gonna take to get there? You know, are they gonna organize and plan those big events, and you know, to sort of get the ball rolling, basically. I think, like, you know, in the past 2 weeks that the game has been launched, the player numbers are definitely very encouraging, and if the player numbers continue to stay that way, like, you know, if we have 30,000 40,000 players every day, that would be fantastic, and I'm sure that would definitely help SLS to, you know, go ahead with sponsoring larger and larger tournaments as we go. I mean, we could even do something like Dota 2's TI, where, you know, they have crowdfunding and all that for their prize pool. I'm sure Battlerite can do something like that as well. Cosmetics were already built into the game. They just need to make a package and say, hey, you know, you want this package, you know, this package of cosmetics, you know, part of this, the price will go towards the prize pool, and that would be fantastic. You know, you get a large prize pool, you get fans excited, and you know, I'm sure they can do something like that. And yeah, there's definitely hope for it. Maybe not like in the next few months, but definitely in a few years, if the player numbers keep up, and also, like, you know, there's more and more exposure and interest in the game. I'm sure like something like that can happen. I think I'm very positive about this. I'm not super sure, of course, like, I mean, how would I know? But I think things are definitely looking like it would get there, I think. So yeah, that's the hope, at least. I pray, and yeah, hopefully we get there. And finally, the last question is from Beruka, and he asks, who's the best Jade you ever played with, especially since last year? So Beruka is a good friend of mine that it's one of the first few friends I've got in Battlerite. And so yeah, he practically plays Jade all the time. So I think he has almost 3,000 games with Jade. I think like almost 90% of his games is just Jade. And so, hey man, Beruka, you're the best Jade I've ever played with, especially since last year. I mean, I've only played Battlerite for a year. So yeah, I hope you like that answer. And yeah, just a little bit of a fun question at the end, I guess. Thank you very much, Beruka, for the support and all that. Yeah, shout out to Beruka. He's a really, really great guy, really, really good friend, and yeah, and a very awesome Jade player. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this Q&A video, especially to those who submitted questions and pretty much gave me this chance to record this Q&A video. I know it's what, we are 600 over subscribers past the 1000 mark, but here it is. I needed some time to, you know, get all the questions and then create this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. A little bit about me and a little bit more about my thoughts on Battlerites and the games that I play. Yeah, just a fun little video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Bear with me as I'm still working on a lot of my Battlerite videos. So yeah, stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, leave a comment, you know. You guys can ask me anything at any time in my comments and stuff. I'll try to get back to you guys as much as possible. I just thought, you know, a Q&A video would have been fun, just as sort of a you know, something to do with you guys, and it's a special for 1000 subscribers. So yeah, thank you guys very much once again for watching, and until next time guys, have a great day, keep gaming, stay chill, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.